Morning, ladies and gentlemen. You'd all take your seats, please.
Maybe they want somebody to quit. And maybe that'll be me.
Just a reminder that everyone please turn off or silence all cell phones or electronic devices. This is a hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Thorold for Thursday, January 25th, 2024. Everyone present will be given an opportunity to speak for or against the applications being heard. When given a chance to speak, you only have 5 minutes, so please make sure to be as clear and consistent as possible. For your information, Committee of Adjustment is a public process. Personal information such as the applicant's name and property address, which is recorded at a Committee of Adjustment meeting, is public information. Minutes of this Committee of Adjustment meeting will be received by Thorold City Council at a public council meeting and become part of the public record. Please address all your comments and questions through the chair. A copy of the decision will be sent to the applicant or agent and to any person who files a written request. Please write your name, address, and the file you are here for in the Zoom text box if you're doing this virtually, or on a piece of paper located on that table back there. Agencies commenting on applications may request that certain conditions be imposed. Voicing objections to these conditions will not adversely affect the committee's decision. Committee of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial body operating under the Planning Act, the Municipal Act, and the Statutory Powers Procedure Act, as well as various provincial regulations. Sections 45 and 50 of the Planning Act outline the circumstances surrounding the approval of minor variances and controlling the conveyance of land in Ontario and the prevention of subdivision of land except with governmental approval. The applicant, the minister, or any specified person or public body who has an interest in the matter may, within 20 days of making the minor variance decision, appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Please keep in mind that there are no third-party applications to the Ontario Land Tribunal. The Deputy Clerk, please read the land acknowledgement.
Okay. The City of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The City of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands in which we live.
Thank you. Does any member of this panel have a pecuniary interest in any of the applications to be considered at this hearing? Nor do I. May I have a motion from the committee that the agenda be adopted as presented? Mr. Ravenek, seconded. Mr. Jackson, all in favor? Thank you. May I have a motion that the minutes of September 21st, 2023 be adopted?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just procedurally. Those were adopted on the November meeting. Unfortunately, the November minutes are not available today, so there's no minutes that are actually
No minutes available?
Not this time. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Pizzo.
Apologies, just we didn't get to it. That's correct.
Thank you. Was notice given as required by the Planning Act, Madam Secretary?
Yes, sir, it was.
Are there any requests for withdrawal or adjournment, Madam Secretary?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, there are not any requests to withdraw or adjourn. I would like to advise the committee that the published agenda before you does not match the original circulation of the materials. Staff has pulled 2 of the minor variance applications. One is to obtain additional information regarding the proposal, and the second is to clarify some external comments that were received. It is anticipated that one of these reports will return at the February meeting. The second one, the date is still to be determined. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We'll now deal with the committee vice chair and the election of said. I will now call for nominations for the vice chair. You may nominate someone else, or you may also nominate yourself. I'll need a seconder for each nomination.
I'll nominate Mr. Daniels for vice chair.
Mr. Ravenek, seconded by Mr. Pizzo. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, all in favor of closing the nominations for committee vice chair? Thank you.
Well, sorry, Mr. Chair, we'll just need a mover and a second to close the nominations.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, I have to ask a question.
please do.
Phil takes over as vice chair. He never does a meeting.
I'm sorry?
He never chairs a meeting. I mean, shouldn't he do a couple a year?
He's a heartbeat away from the top.
I do chair the Parks and Trails and Recs.
No, what I'm saying is he could sit here for 3 years and never sit up there.
Mr. Daniels and I will chat about that.
All right.
Heartbeat away. So we need nominations closed. Mover, seconder, please.
Sure.
Mr. Ravenek, seconded by Mr. Jackson. All in favor? Congratulations, Mr. Daniels.
Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome to the mess. Let's move on. Application 8-1, D10, 01, 2024, 2115 Cotmeyer Road. Mr. Davidson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an application for consent for the purpose of a minor boundary adjustment to an adjacent lot located immediately north. The subject properties are 2115 and 2133 Cotmeyer Road. So the proposal is the subject lands are going to be severed from 2115 Cotmeyer and conveyed to 2133 Cotmeyer Road. We've included a list of conditions attached to the planning report, which are posted. Staff didn't receive any objections or necessary comments to be discussed at this point, so our recommendation is for approval of the application, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Who speaks on behalf of this application, please? Could you come to the podium and identify yourself, please?
It's Jeremy Eggeter, the owner of both properties.
Welcome, Mr. Eggeter.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just don't know what you want me to, if you just want me to review it, or?
You're here to answer questions, are you?
Yeah, that's it, I guess. Yeah, I'm
All right.
saying, as the owner, it's, I can answer any questions about the property, so.
Welcome, Mr. Eggeter. Questions or comments from the committee?
Chairman,
Mr. Pizzo.
I will move acceptance of this application. Been there.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just a reminder to use the mics so that it can be heard.
I've been up, visited. So I make a motion that the application D10 01 23 215 2115 Cotmeyer Road be approved, subject to the report.
Subject to the conditions in the report. We have a seconder for that motion, please. Mr. Jackson. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Eggeter.
Thank you.
D1302 2024, 1201 Eggeter Road. Unusual name. Mr. Davidson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this application is actually a minor variance under Section 45(2) of the Planning Act, and that is to permit the expansion of a legal non-conforming use that was established on 1201 Eggeter Road, and the purpose is a 814 square meter building addition to the existing fabricating business on that site. Committee may recall when we went through the education session, we spoke about a number of uses in the city of Thorold that have basically been down zoned and have lost their existing zoning. This is an example of it, where The property was previously zoned to allow the fabricating use. It was now zoned to future development, and staff is of the opinion that a minor variance for the expansion of that legal existing non-conforming use is appropriate for this site. There were no conditions attached to our recommendation, no adverse comments received. So staff believe this is an appropriate use and an appropriate expansion of an existing operation, and are recommending approval of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Who speaks on behalf of this application, please? If you could identify yourself. Welcome, Mr. Armando.
The process of this particular edition. A little bit of background. That site, based on our research, has probably been zoned industrial, light industrial, for over 50 years. I looked at Niagara Navigator sites back in 1934. There's industrial uses. Our client, based on their business, they're anticipating a large contract, and they're required to expand their operations via the 814 square meter addition that's proposed. In our initial inquiries with the city, in determining what approval processes may be required, we were made aware that this industrial site that's been there for 50 years was deemed future development, and that the existing industrial use became legal non-conforming. So that was kind of a shock to our client, Spencer Fox, and Pat, his VP, wondering when was this land rezoned under the comprehensive zoning bylaw, and when it was rezoned or deemed future development, they never made the client aware of that. So we have an industrial site that's been in operation 15 years, a key component to ES Fox's operations, and now they're deemed legal non-conforming. So with that said, the city provided a mechanism to permit this addition, and we appreciate that. However, there are a couple things we want to bring to the table. One is we're going to look at this committee's opinion and consideration on refunding the Committee of Application fees of $1,300 and change, because had the site remained light industrial, we wouldn't have to be here in front of you this morning. Secondly, we're likely going to pursue getting the lands rezoned to what they pre-established, what they were previously as industrial lands. Because again, our client was not made aware of the fact that all of that land that they owned and that industrial use had been rezoned future development. When I don't think Mr. Fox has any plans of redeveloping that site. It's a key cog in their entire operation and needs to remain industrial. If and when, in some other millennia, they decide to turn to residential, then the powers that be can deal with the rezoning to whatever future development may be the case. So I just wanted to make that clear. We certainly appreciate staff's efforts to move this forward, to permit the addition, because it's a large contract they need to prepare themselves for. But we'd like some consideration for the refund of the application fee, and then we'll likely take this scenario a little further with the planning department on reestablishing the previous zoning use. So with that said, I'm certainly open to any questions to yourself, Mr. Chair, and any of the committee members.
Thank you, Mr. Armando. Questions, comments from the committee? Mr. Pizzo.
So under the city's comprehensive zoning bylaw back in 2019, I think, and I can't be certain because I'm not sure of all the background, but under that, call it Port Robinson district, with all that housing and future development, I think staff may have encapsulated all of those lands west of the canal as future development, anticipating perhaps further residential development. But I'm just speculating. our client was not aware that their industrial use had been redefined under a holding zone. So again, it was kind of a shock to all of us. I don't think Mr. Fox had any intentions of redeveloping that land into some other use, because it's been industrial. He's got an operation there that's essential to his entire operations and business. So I think it was either perhaps bad judgment or an error made on the city's behalf. And again, I'm not certain in terms of how that transpired, but it's not good. It should go back to industrial use. Okay.
Mr. Davidson, do you have anything to add to this?
Through Mr. Chairman, I mean, the comprehensive bylaw was undertaken in 2019, and obviously before that, the background research was done. I tend to agree with the applicant that at times when a comprehensive zoning bylaw is done, circulation isn't done to obviously everyone in the municipality. It's done through newspaper articles, perhaps advertisement on websites, things of that nature. So in a lot of instances, people are typically, a lot of times, unaware, if they're not aware that the process is being undertaken at the time. So, I mean, staff is obviously supportive of the expansion of this use, understanding that there was a situation where we had a previous zoning on this site that has been in operation for, as the applicant has said, probably over 50 years. So it likely was an oversight on behalf of staff of the day.
Fair comment, Mr. Davidson.
Here's my
Mr.
story.
Pizzo?
Now, Mr. Davidson, do you think they should be reduced by $1,300? They should have to pay the rezoning that you did without their approval?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that's really the decision of the committee. You know,
I think they should be reimbursed with the $1,300.
I simply make recommendations. I don't make decisions. So,
Further questions, comments from the committee members? Mr. DiPaolo.
Just for me, I think the proposal makes a lot of sense in terms of where it was. Without, my understanding is if the zoning didn't change and it is legal non-conforming, that this would be pretty much a straightforward scenario, correct? And so I looked at it. It looks like all the services are there. It looks like the building complies in every other respect. So I am in support of this, and if you like, I can put the motion forward to do so.
Please do.
So I make a motion, the application D1302-2024 at 1201 Edgeter Road, as supported through the report by the planning staff, be approved, and consideration for a full refund of the premium that was paid be returned.
Maybe we could make that 2 motions, Mr. DiPaolo?
If you want me to make them 2, otherwise I can do that. Would that
Mr. Chair, what I can also do is I can just amend that if the committee wishes to include the information about the fee refund. It may be good to do it as one motion with 2 parts, essentially.
A and B?
Yeah, I can just add a sentence if you just give me just 1 minute.
You have 1 minute.
So you can just let me know if committee if you're okay with the wording and if you'd like to proceed on the basis of this wording.
I ask the mover.
That works for me.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion, please? Mr. Daniels? Mr. Ravenak?
I have a question, Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. DeBono. I'm presuming that since you put it on there, but I don't want to presume anything, does it fall within the committee's authority to refund the fee?
Yes, so I believe it does. Worst case scenario, we have this motion, and if it needs to then go up to council for approval, we can absolutely make arrangements for that, depending on the vote, of course.
Thank you.
Further questions, comments on the motion? Seeing none. All in favor of the motion?
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Chair.
Raimondo?
Thank you, members of the committee. Thank you, city staff.
Moving on, 8.3, D13, 23, 2024, 40.
It should be 23, 2020, 24, 2023, sorry.
That's okay.
My,
No problem. 40 Front Street North. Mr. Davidson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is an application that's been before committee before on 40 Front Street North. It's a minor variance. It's for again, section 45.2, the legalization of an existing residential use on the ground floor of an existing building. These lands are on the east side of Front Street North, bounded by Regent Street to the north and Albert Street to the east, Regent Street to the north, Albert Street east to the south, and they're situated within the Thorold Community Improvement Area. The ground floor area is currently occupied by 4 existing apartment units, which is in contravention of the zoning bylaw, which does not permit apartment units on the ground floor. Staff is recommending that the existing apartments be legalized and recognized through this minor variance application. With regard to that, the conversion of commercial space is a difficult thing to look at. And typically in a downtown area, it's not supportable. This situation, I think committee member DiPaolo classified it as a unicorn in the downtown area in the previous meeting. And staff's kind of in agreement with that. It is a unique residential building, and this commercial component has struggled to find commercial tenants historically on this site. With the setback from Front Street, it's situated in behind the existing commercial, and typically in a downtown area, what you do see is commercial right up on the street frontage. So what you have in this situation is basically almost a hidden commercial area, which has again struggled to find successful tenants. So we're recommending that this application be approved. We did get comments from the Heritage Committee. They are concerned about the precedent that's been set or would be set. And again, applications for minor variance do not set precedents. Each application has to be looked at on its own merits. And we think that, again, typically staff would not be supportive of an application like this to remove commercial space. In this instance, we look at it as kind of second-rate commercial because of its location, and we are supportive of the application as it's been submitted. So we've made recommendation for approval. There was a condition that we attached to this that the applicant provide proof that a record of site condition would not be required and that it would be an exemption. And it's a little bit redundant because that will be looked at through building permit processes, which haven't even begun yet, because basically we have occupied buildings that have not been reviewed by our building division at this time. So again, that has to catch up. Either the units are legalized, we get the review done on these apartments, or the minor variance would fail and the apartments would not be able to exist. So again, we're here to respond to any questions that we might have on this one.
Mr. Davidson, so any safety issues or deficiencies would be addressed on the inspection process?
That's correct, which at this time, has not happened yet. So we have people that have been living in these apartments for over 10 years, and has not been subject to any building permit review process at this time.
Who speaks on behalf of this application, please? Could you identify yourself, please?
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Craig Rowe, Upper Canada Consultants.
Welcome, Mr. Rowe.
My comments are brief. I've read my colleague Mr. Davidson's report. I agree with the analysis in it. We're aware of the condition. I've taken a look at it, and it can be satisfied under our review, and we're prepared to submit a letter to that effect. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Questions, comments from the committee? Mr. DiPaolo.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Rowe, how long has this building been in existence?
Well, that's a good question. Mr. Davidson, do you have that information?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the actual apartment structure?
Just the actual building. How long, when was it built, this thing?
Mr. Rowe, do you have that information?
I don't know if Mr. Rowe has that right off the top of his head.
Through Mr. Chair, no, I don't know the exact date, but aerial photography seems to indicate maybe around the 60s or 70s that it first appeared.
So so if we, just for ballpark, if we assume the 70s, then this building has been there, I don't know, 60 years? Is that what we're thinking? Is that my math? Is my math close? Just approximately, so 60 years. And the building was always this shape, this size, this location. Nothing's ever changed. And I do still believe it's a bit of a unicorn, and I'm almost grateful that we've had some time to reflect some more on this. I think it's made a lot of sense because it's given me some more time to think about it, talk to some tenants there, look around, and in a way, think about where we're going, not where we've always been, right? I think, challenge today with the new world that we have and the new, the whole idea of hybrid zoning and mixed zoning and allowing people to be downtown, and this almost seems to be a nice little nugget. And parking is always an issue when you have this kind of stuff, but this particular building seems to have parking. It seems to have an abundance of parking spaces if it was residential, right? And so when you think about residential, one of the factors that come to my mind is parking, and this building seems to have some parking. And the more I thought about it, is this, I come back and I look at it, is this a wise use of this property? I went also back and I looked at maybe previous tenants, commercial tenants that were in this building, and nobody does seem to stick for whatever reason. They had a physiotherapy building in there, it left. They had a couple of other small businesses in there. For whatever reason, it left. And so, the way that this is transcended is, I think these people, and the reason I asked how long the building's been there, I think they have had a good run at the commercial, and they've had to adapt to survive. The landlord, I think it's Panoramic Properties, I've went on their website, and when talking to tenants, they seem to run a really nice operation, clean, all the rules, and they seem to be very, the units themselves online have wonderful pictures, so if they're correct, what I saw online, they were good. So I think from protecting the public and stuff like that, I think it was a lot of stuff. So consistency, and I thought about consistency and conformity, and I know that consistency with the other commercial operators down on Front Street, they wanted all that. But this, like I say, this particular building, when we look at this provision for this adjustment here, to me, it's starting to make more sense the more I thought about it. And it's almost starting to be a desirable use for where we want to go, encouraging people living downtown. And the question I have is that my understanding is if there was a 6-foot pizza takeout in front of this, you would be allowed to have residential behind it. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that's correct. If you had commercial in front,
you would be allowed behind.
Yes.
So having the residential on that floor is just a matter of like you could sell bathing suits, hats, pizza, and then you would be allowed to live there and behind there. So I just thought, no? No, you may not be able to do, I'm just saying that you would be allowed to live behind, the current zoning bylaw would allow you to live behind it, I think, on the same floor, on the first floor, on the main, right on the road floor. So that's just my understanding. I think overall, I think this, like I say, just because of this particular property with the parking that it has, I'm going to support the application.
Thank you, Mr. DiPaolo. May have to put a timer on the members now. Any other further comments, questions? Mr. Pizzo.
Mr. Chairman, this application reeks of everything you guys preach. Downtown is, you guys preached that, we've had them before. No, you cannot do that. I don't know why they built that place that far back. What kind of taxes do they pay on those do they pay commercial taxes or did they pay residential taxes?
Through Mr. Chairman, I don't have that answer right off the top of my head, but if it is zoned, it depends on the use and if it's actually occupied as well.
You didn't know what was going on for 10 years.
Well, through Mr. Chairman, I can't speak to why there was no enforcement that was done on this property, other than, it was being utilized for that residential purpose, and there were no formal complaints.
I just think they pulled the wool over your eyes and they got it done. But I agree. I agree with Peter. But you guys preach this, and you're just saying no, you don't want anybody else to do it. But there's downtown places that have been vacant for 10 years. 10 years. He'd love to put a condo in there.
Mr. Davidson.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, I think from staff's perspective, we are definitely supportive of getting people downtown. That's not the concern. That's not the issue. The issue is the policy which limits the location of that residential use. So if, say for example, the parking lot was a commercial space, this application wouldn't even be necessary. So, typically in a downtown area, you see buildings that actually come right up to the lot line. They're street fronting. There's no setback on them. The reason that staff is supportive of this is because of that setback that exists. And it really, truly is unique. It is a unique building in the downtown area, and when you look along that street frontage, this is the only building that has that setback. So again, we're not concerned necessarily with the precedent that we're setting. We don't think that other people will be coming in asking for it, and I think at staff's level, we would continue to hold that policy of the commercial in the front being very appropriate for a downtown area. This, again, it's just unique circumstances.
Further questions or comments from the committee?
I'll second his motion. I think you got a motion on the floor.
I don't think he made a motion. Did you make a motion, Mr. DiPaolo? No. Mr. Ravenek? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Mr. Ravenek, did you have something?
No, I was going to make the motion, but if Mr. DiPaolo wants
Mr. Daniels?
Just one comment. There, next to, I think it's Joe's Mechanic there, right on the corner of Regent and Front. There's a house next door to it. It's not just a house. Just a question. Next time you're driving up Front Street, it's not the only place that doesn't have commercial space on the main floor. If you go up and down Front Street as much as most of us do, not every building is situated like that. But anyways, just a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Mr. Ravenek?
Okay, I'll make the motion that the application D1324 for 2023 at 40 Front Street North be approved based on a review of the pertinent information and comments presented at this hearing, and having conducted a site visit and for the reasons stated in the planning report, and it should include the condition as stated by the planners. And also, I'd like the last paragraph of the Heritage Committee letter included in that, recognizing that this is a unique situation.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Pizzo. Further questions, comments? Is there anyone here to speak to this application other than Mr. Rowe? No. Nothing further on the motion? All in favor? Thank you, Mr. Rowe.
Thank you.
Moving on to the Rice Road applications. I think they'll all have to be moved and seconded separately, but I think we can deal with them all together. Is that okay with the committee? Thank you. Mr. Davidson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So these are 7 applications in front of you right now for basically lot line adjustments and discharge of mortgages. Really, the proposal is to sever off the rear portion of these lands, and it follows the municipal boundary, and it's the boundary between Pelham and Thorold. So the lands that are within Thorold will be conveyed to an adjacent parcel to the east, and the properties that front on Rice will continue to live in Pelham. So we've attached a number of conditions to the applications. I would note we do have 2 modifications, and it would be on D10 04-24 and D10 07-24, and it's conditions number 7 in both of those that need to be struck. So the condition reads on D4 that the owner provide proof from an OLS that any existing structures will meet the setback provisions of both the zoning bylaws if required. It's not necessary. We've had consultation with Pelham, and there's no need to include that. So we struck it from the other applications, but we just missed those 2. So if committee is willing to make those modifications, that is really the only comments that I have on these applications. So I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Everything's clear on the removal of 7 on those 2 applications? Okay. Who speaks on behalf of this application, please? If you could identify yourself.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. My name is Juan. I'm a planner with Upper Canada Consultants.
Welcome, sir. Do you have anything to add?
I'm Ethan Lamont with Upper Canada.
Is your microphone on, Ethan?
There is a light showing. Maybe I have to speak a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Light's on, yeah.
Thank you.
I don't have anything to add. I support staff's recommendation and analysis, and I'm just here to answer questions that the committee might have.
Thank you, sir. Questions, comments from the committee? Seeing none. Oh, Mr. DiPaolo?
I want to make sure one side of the road is Thorold, the other side of the road is Pelham. Why are we doing this again? Just take me through this again. For some reason, it's like gum in my hair, but it's not sticking. So can you just take me through what we're doing again?
Yeah, so the properties all.
One big parcel, correct, today? Like, is it not one?
So no, it's a number of different parcels that are on Rice Road. So there's 7 properties that we're dealing with right now. Okay, so they all front on Rice Road, which is within the limits of Pelham. The backs of these parcels, as shown on the map up there, the backs of the parcels all are within Thorold. So what is proposed is on each of those 7 properties, the rear portions will be conveyed to the receiving lands to the east.
So when you say the back, like almost where the D and the S is?
Correct.
That's the back where that line is?
Yes.
That's going to go back and that becomes part of those receiving lands. Is the ownership the same here?
So the receiving lands is one ownership. Correct. The properties that front on Rice Road are 7 different owners.
And
Correct.
No, that's not, the receiving lands are in Thorold.
Is Thorold.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the boundary adjustment also is located in Thorold. The remnant lands will remain in Pelham.
So the subject lands, the rest of that remains in Pelham.
Yes.
So the receiving, are you representing the receiver here?
That's right, yeah. We've been retained on behalf of the owner of the receiving lands.
Who is that?
It's a numbered company. I'm not sure off the top of my head what the number is.
I'd like to know, I think it's important.
I believe the information is through the chair, I believe the information is in the application form. There's a section saying the interest in the lands, and I believe there is the information under that section.
And then that residential dwelling labeled, whatever number that is, that's a separate owner?
Through you, Chair, I'm not sure what residential property you're referring.
The two boxes that are not in blue, like you have the blue receiving lands,
Oh.
other two.
Those are separate property. Those are not under the ownership of that parcel. Those are separately owned parcels.
Separately owned parcels. What's the zoning of the current land? Receiving land, what's the zoning?
Mr. Davidson?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, it's agriculture at this point. So any conveyance that's done, I mean, the receiving lands are going to have to go through future Planning Act applications, whether it's plan of subdivision, but they'll certainly need rezoning. They are within the secondary plan, so there's a number of different studies that will need to occur with it. It's really just it's to simplify it, it's to basically make sure that all of the properties are within Thorold.
But this guy's, the receiving land that you're representing, Mr. Eden, is land acquisition here, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And was there a particular reason that the other two that almost finished the corner were not, or are left off this?
I'm not sure the exact reason. My assumption would be that they just couldn't get a purchase and sale agreement together with those two owners. But in the future, if they're able to negotiate an agreement, then we would have to come before the committee and do additional boundary adjustments for any additional pieces that they may or may not happen to get agreements for.
You know, like, interesting that this is an interesting story to me, and I just don't know if we have the whole story in front of us here today. Or maybe it's none of our business at this point, I guess either. So quite honestly, that's all my questions.
Thank you, Mr. DiPaolo. Mr. Davidson?
I think you're correct, through you, Mr. Chairman. I think you're correct. We don't have the whole picture, but that future picture will become clear in the future through those applications. And I think at this point, it's a relatively simple application at this point. It will get more complicated as we go through future Planning Act applications. So.
All the other people that you circulated this to, nobody had any other objections. No other agencies had objections. The town had no objections, correct?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that's correct. We had no objections. We had discussion with Pelham and their staff. We included that condition just as a cover-off because we hadn't received any comments from Pelham, and Pelham said it wasn't necessary, so that was why it was struck. Unfortunately, we only took it out of 5 of the 7, so that's why we were modifying the conditions. So.
And so that means you're not going to need, like, once that becomes one large parcel, you will automatically get a new survey?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, that's correct. And in some instances, there aren't even structures on those properties. And at the time that the structure was established in Pelham, they would have had to go through a building permit review at that point as well. So they would have looked at it to ensure. So that's why Pelham was satisfied that that condition wasn't required.
Thank you, Mr. DiPaolo. Further questions or comments from the committee to the agent? Mr. Pizzo.
I'd like to move this. Your problems are coming up, so they'll all be cleared up by the first step. So I would make a motion that we accept. I need a motion that we accept application
We're gonna have to do them separately, I think. Yeah. 7 motions.
Well, there's been amendments to 2 of them, right, sir? 7th condition has been struck for 2 of them, so that's why I'll put them up on the screen so you can see what's being done. I would recommend going through them each.
Recommend what?
I would recommend going through each of the applications individually.
We can go pretty quickly. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to these applications? I see some folks sitting back there. They just came to see our handsome faces? Okay. That's you, Mr. Davidson. Okay, you want to start it off?
Okay. I make a motion that the application D100224 be accepted.
Seconder for that motion? Mr. Jackson.
N D10.
No, we're gonna have to
But no
vote on them
separate.
each separately. All in favor of the motion? Thank you. Want to keep
No? Okay.
going?
Thanks a lot, Mr. Paulo. D10, I forgot my glasses. D100324. Accept the planner's report.
Same seconder, Mr. Jackson? Yes, sorry. That's okay. All in favor? Thank you.
D1014, 2024, planner's report.
D1004, 2024?
Yes.
Seconder's okay? Thank you. All in favor?
D1005, 24, planner's report. Well done.
Seconded. All in favor? Thank you.
D1006, planner's report. Well done.
Seconder? Thank you. All in favor? Keep going.
13024, planner's report.
D1007, 2024, I think is what you meant.
Yes.
Mr. Jackson, you're seconding that? Yes. Thank you. All in favor?
Is it D100824?
D1008, 2024, same seconder? Yes. Thank you. All in favor? Mr. Vice Chair, all in favor? Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
We'll move on to other business. Do we have anything to discuss? Madam Secretary.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Further to my email yesterday, I just wanted to let you guys know again that the second biannual honorarium for 2023 has been forwarded to finance and should be out either this week or next.
Anything else under other business or new business? Mr. Pizzo. We're gonna have to, I think the new vice chair is gonna have to be in charge of timing his neighbor there.
I'll bring the hourglass. I got a couple of things in board meetings.
You should. After the meeting, out in the parking lot. Mr. Daniels will be your opponent. Next meeting is third Thursday, what is that date? February 15th. Anything else? Anything from staff? Good job, staff.
Thank you.
Welcome. Connor, you said too much today?
Good job, everybody.
Well
I
done.
think Connor wrote some great reports there. It's
Did.
and he'll likely be taking over my tap dancing show next month. So
Put him in the hot seat.
That's right.
Mr. Jackson, did you have something?
Yes, John, I come close to needing my name tag for this month, one of the applications I looked at. I have my old one that we had for the last term, but I think we've had the pictures taken for this term, but we haven't got any name tag with the proper dates on it. Should we be looking at something like that, or can we use the old ones, or what's the situation there?
Looked a little shady on that inspection, did you, Mr. Jackson?
I'm sorry?
You looked a little shady, did you? They wanted some ID?
Well, I was walking around the property and I had some people looking at me. They didn't come out, but I was figuring they were going to.
Ashley, is there any update on the tags? I
Through you,
don't know.
Mr. Chair, I will find out and have an answer for the committee next.
Thank you, Ashley.
Chairman,
Mr.
I'd
Pizzo.
like to ask Mr. Davidson, did you sing that song you took along, Leaving Lucille? You know the one I mean?
I do.
It's a Kenny Rogers joke.
I was just
for
gonna
you,
say, I
young
thought
guy.
that's Kenny Rogers' joke. Yeah. I don't have Dolly with me today though, so.
Anything else, folks? I'm going to rule that out of order.
I get my dog clipped, do you want some, well, they took the Angeles picture when you,
All right,
We
let's
didn't show up for the first
let's
meeting.
move on. Motion to adjourn? Thank you, Mr. Jackson.